Welcome to the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. My name is Dr. Jinong and I'm your host. I'm a cathartic release therapist, professionally trained as an osteopath, psychosomatic therapist, Western acupuncturist, and herbalist. I'm fascinated by the mind-body connection and how your physical body is a manifestation of your emotional state. I help people get unstuck from their chronic pain, whether it be physical or emotional, and live the life they truly desire, grounded in values and driven by purpose. My aim is to create awareness to the underlying emotions behind pain, injury, and disease in the body, as well as behavioural dysfunctions and mental imbalances that present. I do this using a unique blend of Eastern and Western philosophies and a good dose of intuition. Join me to learn more about the story of your body, what different issues may indicate, how to release emotions so that you can prevent problems, as well as inspiring pain story interviews. I'm so happy to be able to bring a part 3 to the History Interpreted series on the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. If you are listening to this episode, I suggest you listen to part 1 and part 2. Part 1 was where I was interpreting someone's history based on answers that they had given to me to specific questions that I ask, interpreting on a physical, emotional, human, energetic, chakra and dosha level, because that's what I help people with. Part 2 was a follow-up conversation to hear how this information had landed. And then part 3 is sharing with you a facilitated release process, which is what I do with people, is I help them process their emotions using the release process, which I have developed, which is a verbal dialogue process. We actually did another one, but it was a little bit too sensitive to put on a podcast. So it's ended up just being shared with my practitioner group who learn how to do this technique. And then we circled back a couple of weeks later and decided to try and see what would come up and if it was appropriate to put on the podcast. So this episode starts off with a discussion because it's been a couple of weeks to see what's happened. The first 15 minutes is a discussion. And then if you want to fast forward, I get this client to drop into accessing a release. And then 25 minutes in is when the facilitation process starts. So I explain it during the podcast, but this is not a basic release process. It is a variation off the back of the foundations that I teach. But that's what I'm here for, is to help people facilitate some of the harder stuff. So I hope you enjoy listening to this and get something out of it as you hear me facilitate. Just know that releases can go so many, many layers deep, as could this one. It can have many branches off it that need to be processed. And again, I am just very grateful to this client allowing me to publish this so you can get an insight into my world. I get to hear all sorts of fascinating things. And we're probably going to have another little catch up. We might not publish it though, but just another little catch up to find out how things are going after doing these couple of releases. Hopefully it has landed a new level of awareness, and you will hear in the conversation at the start just her response to some new treatments that she's trying as well, because this is about combining the physical, the emotional, and everything above.
It's just us. It's just us. We go straight in. We're like,
yeah, we just dive in. We just had a little conversation. It's like, oh, we have to record this. So you're being recorded now. And
okay. I'm also taking off my brace, which might make some Velcro noises because I was just out walking.
Oh, that's all good. But we had some conversations in between, and I had recommended that if you can find someone who dry needles, who just goes to town on your body, then that would be amazing on an emotional and a physical front. And you sent me pictures of the difference, and you were like, wow. So yeah, can you just rehash what we didn't get on the recording?
Yes, absolutely. Let me just finish getting this brace off of me.
And we're going to try and record a release today as well, but we'll see what comes up.
Okay. So I have a talus bone in my right ankle that has avascular necrosis. And so I've seen pictures of it, and it looks like the bone has really decayed a significant amount.
And so this is your right ankle.
My right ankle, exactly. Which is the driving ankle. It's the, like, you know, to get around in my car, like there's so much that gets interrupted when you have a right ankle that does not work. And it's been really hard because this has been a year that it's just not consistently getting better. And I could do something that I have no clue what it is. Like one day I walked down a staircase and sat in a pool and kind of fluttered my legs around. And when I got out of the pool, I couldn't walk on my ankle. And it just would swell up, and it felt like someone had put like a little nuclear bomb inside and like just was pushing it outwards. And what I did not understand at the time was that the bone in the spaces in between the bones were just getting so full of edema. So anyway, I finally got it diagnosed after way too long. And so a lot of people have recommended dry needling, and I get a lot of trigger point therapy in my neck where I had a 5-level cervical laminoplasty, and I'm used to trigger points. I'm like, dig in, cut up that fascia. You know, they go in with shorter needles and they literally are injecting stuff, and they're like, and they're going through the twitch points, right? And yeah. I love it. The harder they dig, the better I am. And so I'm thinking I'm going into dry needling and it's gonna be like that. Oh boy, was I mistaken. Besides the fact that the needles go in way deeper, and you know, she's bringing them right through the muscle to the bone. She's at some of the nerve points. So she did from my knee all the way to my big toe.
Yeah.
Tons. I think I sent you the picture with the needles, and you're welcome to share that if you want. And it was a sensation like I had never felt before, because I've had so much trigger points where, you know, that twitching. And I used to, before I had, do you guys know what RFL is? Radio frequency ablation. RFL, or radio frequency lesioning, or radio frequency ablation, both the same name. So I've had 4 levels on each side of my neck. I've had my thoracic spine from T11 to L2, and I've had from L5, 6, whatever, down my L spine. I've had radio frequency ablation, which means that they go in with a hot needle with electricity attached to it, and they kill off the nerve that wraps around the facet joint, because all it's there to do is to tell you you're in pain. And because I have the spine of a 95-year-old man, they know I'm in pain, right? And so they do this for me, is like they ablate these things and it lasts for like 6-7 years. It's really amazing how it works. So I'm thinking, I've had electrical needles put in me. I've had them burn nerves in my body. I've had this trigger point stuff in my neck for the past 20 years. This is going to be cake. I go in there, I'm telling her, I'm like shining high. I'm like, I'm so good at this. I know what's going to happen. She starts putting those needles in my leg, like at nerve points. I am freaking out. I'm like, this is nothing what I expected. And it was really interesting because I could feel the depth of the needle. And it was like so many trigger point, like little volcano explosions throughout. And she left them in for about 5 minutes. And then as she was taking them out, she would twist them and kind of do a little carving. But at that point, like, it was just a whole different kind of experience for me. Like, they're thinner needles. You don't have to clean I'm used to them like alcoholing me down and, you know, betadining me up and like making sure that everything is super sterile. She's like, yeah, put on some gloves, shove some needle into me. I was like, yeah, where are we? Did you even clean the table? She had, of course, but like, it was just it was not a medical procedure. It didn't, you know, it was just a whole different vibe. I went to a private clinic physical therapist as opposed to one that takes insurance. So these guys will work on any part of your body. So she did my whole leg, my right leg from the knee down. And I sent you the picture from the next day. I woke up and I just looked down at my legs and I'm like, one of these legs does not look like the other. My mottled, inflamed fascia, which she told me has been it's the first person in my life who's really been able to touch me and tell me what's going on. She explained that I've always said my fascia is my exoskeleton. It holds me together because I'm so hyperlax. And she said, what's happened is my nerves and my muscles have forgotten what to do. So she put needles in places to reawaken those things. And all of a sudden the inflammation just came out of my lower leg.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. And because I'm so inflamed everywhere in my body, I'm excited because she did my upper trap, which hurt like nothing I've ever felt because it was so much deeper. But I can't wait to go back and get more because it really started to soften stuff. And my massage therapist could actually get deeper inside. And we found 3 bone spurs that we hadn't been able to palpate before, but we knew they were there because they hurt. And because the result of my surgery is that my spinal cord is safe, but I grow extra bones everywhere. I have osteochondroma. I've got extra bones everywhere. So you give me an opportunity to like grow some extra bones. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like it's a party.
So I love this. And I love that you found the right dry needler. And, we've done the history interpretation. We did a little follow-up conversation. So that was part 1, part 2 of the podcast. And then some cool things opened up in your world. And this is where I say the right therapist will also land for you as well. Because I'd love to do dry needling on you. And I love the sound of this person. Because
come visit.
You come visit here. It's, well, I don't actually do it anymore, but there are times where I'm like, oh, I just feel like I want to get into that person. But it's also finding the right person who's ready to like dig in. And as you were saying, you used to get the injections with the lidocaine probably in it, the trigger point therapy. And I think this was on our last recording conversation, that sometimes it's just the act of the needle, and you've sometimes got to put like 100 points in someone's body and search around. And the key is to feel it. And so I sent you a message saying, look, you should really look to have 3 sessions within 10 days to break that cycle of what your nerves have a memory of. And so true, like let's wake up what's forgotten how to function and reset everything. And to know that you're progressing is you'll feel like that there is less going on and you won't be as sore or wiped out afterwards. And then probably 3rd or 4th session in, you'll just be able to bounce out and feel really energized. And it's like the emotional work. You've just got to get over the first few sessions where it's digging in deep. And because you have that pitta nature, you might miss the feeling of hitting the spot, but it's actually a good thing. It's like the pitta wanting the catharsis. It's like you'll rarely get the catharsis after you've had it initially, as long as you keep going and things get easier rather than your body.
There are so many other body parts though that I can get that hit off of, because I mean, when she's going to do my arm tomorrow, so I'm going in again tomorrow and we're going to redo my leg and we'll do some PT, and I've been doing some exercises, but I'm going to have her work my arm, and I'm going to have her do one arm to see if like we see the difference in my legs, that we can actually see the inflammation start to drop. Because, I've had so many people try to do fascial plane hydrodissection in this chunk of fascia in my arm that no one knows why it's there.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if we talked about this in our last call, but I've since started working with a functional medicine doctor. I think I told you that. She found this gene SNP. Tell me if this sounds familiar, where I am not processing out toxins correctly.
Yeah, there's quite a few like that. Again, you can have the gene SNP, but is it turned on is the other question.
I guess it is, because the way she read my, we did my whole DNA, put it up into the Pure Genomics database, and then you get out the results of what the weirdnesses are. And that was one of the weirdnesses. So.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, and about energetics as well, is down to the needling is sometimes we don't need to understand or have a reason why something's there, but often it's emotional or energetic that it's held in the body, and we just need a way to release it that makes sense to our body at that point in time, because in the past you may not have responded to the dry needling as you are now. So I'm super happy that you've come across it. And also, good point that you made about insurance versus private. I mean, when I started transitioning out of my work, I was I just wanted to do private because I found it really hard with insurance where they say you can only treat this part of the body. And I never did. I always treated the rest of it. But that is one of the dangers of being under insurance. And depending on the practitioner you're seeing, if they're really sticking to the book, they're sectioning out your body and not considering that your whole body and your mind is connected. And you're missing out on what I would say is 95% of what you could benefit from. Anyway.
Yeah. And that's why I've decided, because there are a lot of people in my neighborhood who do dry needling, but I've decided to go with her because in one session, she can work on the part of my body that is currently injured, but she can also be working on parts of my body that are not injured, but are in pain.
Yeah.
And just help me with my overall mobility, because I literally feel like I've got this, like, you know, those old knights that were in like the armor suits. I feel like I have armor all around me. And I don't know if you've ever studied any of Michael Singer's work, The Untethered Soul.
I've heard of The Untethered Soul.
Oh my God, it's the most incredible book. And he talks about samskaras, which is this yogic term for an energetic block in the body. And I almost feel like I have those energetic blocks on my exterior, not my interior. And so I'm really excited to just see if we can really, you know, bust these open.
Yeah. Did you say sankaras?
Samskara, Samskara, samskara. So it's a yogic term for an energetic block in the body.
Okay, because I've just had a few people go on Vipassana and they call about sankaras. They say sankaras. I believe that's the word. And I've been relating this story quite a few times, so I might as well share it on here, is that my work is about help you process the past emotions, the deep sankaras, which are like the grooves in the rock that are going to take a long time for the waves to sort of wash over, erode and smooth them out. But then we want to be able to get you to process the new emotional events, which are just the lines in the sand that get washed away with the tide every day. So I wonder if it's similar, that some.
I think it's probably an interpretation of how to understand and read the Sanskrit or something.
Yeah.
He calls it samskaras, but it's the same thing. It's an emotional energy that got stuck inside you.
Yeah. And then this is where I love to combine the emotional work with any physical work you're getting, or functional medicine work as well, is that I then believe the body becomes more sensitive and more receptive when you can open the space for those supplements, those IV treatments, whatever you're doing, the diet, the dry needling, to actually take hold and start to reset. So let's dive in to finding a release to do. So there was one that we did, but it's actually only been shared to the practitioner group that I train. So thank you for that. And then we just have to see what comes up and if this one is going to be appropriate to put on the podcast, but also not having you hold back because you know that people might be listening to it. And before we get into this, I just want to give people a heads up. I don't know what release is going to come up for me to facilitate today. And it's not just about one and done. There are many layers, and sometimes there are lighter ones, sometimes there are heavier ones, and then sometimes it can take months before someone's ready to go really deep. So today, because based off the history interpretation, we thought we were going to do one on the fascia, and there are so many variations of doing releases. You can do them on people, you can do them on inanimate things, you can do it on body parts, you can do it on groups and communities and the government and religious groups, all sorts of things. So what I think we'll do today, because of just how we're doing this, is getting you to tap into your body's intuition. And it doesn't take too long, and we'll just go with whatever comes up. So I'm going to type away some notes. That's how it helps me digest information. But I'll get you to close your eyes down. And just remember with the release, because you've been through with one of them with me before, is I'm going to prompt you. And if I feel you going off track, I'm going to redirect you just so you can get to the heart of it. So with your eyes closed, I just want you to tell me, what is the first sensation you feel in your body today?
Heaviness on the outside of my arms.
Okay. And I'll interpret this in a minute, but if you tune into that heaviness on the outside of your arms, is there an event, a memory, a person that comes to your mind, and you just go with the first thing?
the thing that keeps coming up and that I've been thinking about since we did the last release has been my block in finding a soulmate.
Okay.
And I feel like there's something about how my fascia holds me together. It's almost like it keeps me safe and protected. And like, you can't harm me because I've got this iron coating, this metal coating. I don't know if it's true or not, but like one of the things that I'm working on in my life right now is I've been doing a ton of online dating. There's a lot of jerks out there, and there's some nice people who aren't a right match. And it is like having a whole full-time job. And I feel like my protection is getting stronger because I've run up against a couple of people who just have inappropriate behavior in terms of how they treat another human being. And so I think that there's some walls and some armor that I could probably lean back more into my feminine and just let it be without it needing to be a specific anything. Like, I just wanted to have fun. I said, the more boys I kiss, the more money I'm going to make this summer. It's kind of a joke I've been playing with. And
well, there is a really interesting energetic interpretation here, but you keep going.
I love it. And so I literally have been playing that game with myself. The more boys I kiss, the more money I make. And then I realized I was not kissing as many boys as I wanted to. And so I decided to separate out the money. I just make money because I'm having fun and being joyful. But I do note, especially as a woman in the age group that I'm in my 50s, it's not an easy time to date. And I am at this point pretty freaking evolved as a human. And my tolerance for people who treat me badly is not very, I don't hold back anymore. I stand up for myself. That's not okay.
Well, one of the important things is that we get into doing a release, because so much can be accessed when you process your emotions. I just want to quickly ask you, without going into too much detail though, if you visualize what your arms look like and inside your body, do you see that armor, or what does it look like? Just a brief description.
Very it looks very ropey, like ropes that you would have on a big ship, like really thick ropes that almost have created a solid outside because they're all wrapped together.
Okay, so again, coming back to the question, is there anyone in particular that comes up for you? Any memory, any event? Otherwise, I do have another direction for this.
No, it does not come up a specific person.
So what I'm going to do is just explain to you, if something came up, then I would just dive in and we would trust and do that release. But I want to explain to you just very briefly the heart and sacral connection. And I have a whole podcast on this because it's just become so clear to me. And it gives the emotional and energetic expression of everything that you just described. So your arms is a secondary area for your heart chakra. Heart chakra governs emotions and energy around love, conditional and unconditional love. So sometimes there's stuff to do with parents with the unconditional love. And it's about connection, belonging, nurturing, nourishment, and also forgiveness. And I'm really not about go and forgive and just ignore everything else. Then we have the emotions of, which I think we might have spoken about this, but we'll recap it in this moment, the darker emotions of hatred, resentment, injustice, jealousy, betrayal. And then the sacral chakra link, which is the hips and pelvic area, and also the lips is a secondary area. There is such a strong link that I've seen between the heart chakra and the sacral chakra, meaning that there is often things of betrayal, resentment, hatred, injustice, jealousy, envy, etc., that has to do with a relationship in life. And then you've just gone and told me that you want to try and attract a relationship. So I feel very strongly about doing this emotional work. Now, fertility, abortions, miscarriage, cheating, previous love, etc., workplace relationships, and then on an energetic level, the sacral chakra governs sex, money, and power. And I talked about this on the Energetic Body Splits Masterclass, is that everyone's like, I want the sex, money, and power. And it's like, well, you can't get there, the energetics, until you go and experience some of the other stuff that is holding you back and filling up the space for the sex, money, and the power. So it is a relationship with money, and the sacral chakra is a very feminine chakra as well. And there's, probably many layers of releases that can be done, but we're just going to work on one and let's see what comes up today. Now, because there isn't actually a person, an event, or memory that's coming up for you, we can just tune into this visualization of what's going on as well. And there is possibly just talking to your body. But
I think that there's a category that comes up, which is that because of the way I was raised, because of the conditions I was in, because of the assault and trauma and abuse that I experienced, I think I never knew what a healthy man looked like. And I think I never had experienced that. And so I dated toxic man after toxic man. I mean, I dated a man who tried to throw me out of a moving car once, and I stayed with him afterwards. And I'm such a powerful woman. It's hard to hear that story and to imagine that that was actually me at one point in my life, but it was. I was in my early 30s and I didn't know that I could walk away. So I think that there's part of it for me that I don't know if I trust knowing what a good man looks like.
Okay, and intuition is a big part of our feminine energy, but also of the sacral chakra. Whenever I think about the sacral chakra, I think of joy, creativity, intuition, emotional expression. So when I said but, I just like launched into the next thing. My pit of brain is I talked about the heart chakra, I talked about the sacral chakra. Was there anything else that came up, or was that what came up? The younger me that used to be in these toxic relationships, who experienced assault, experienced abuse.
Yeah, it was like unrequited love, experienced abuse, had a broken picker. People have been telling me for years, you have a broken picker. So I decided to go heal myself. And in healing myself, I knew I wasn't going to be ready to meet my mate until I was at this age. And it's very funny because when I was in my early 30s and I was with this guy who threw me out of the car, I had met a palm reader who told me that I was not going to get married until very, very late in life. And I thought she meant 35.
Yeah.
And she meant late 50s. And I'm like, okay, getting there.
All right. And unrequited love is another sacral chakra type emotion energy that gets held, that can be processed. So what comes to me now is there, it could just be it's either the younger you that we're going to talk to, who had all of these multiple toxic relationships and unrequited love and so on, and kept on repeating these behaviors. As a result of processing your emotions, you can naturally break these behaviors. Sometimes it's then making the choice to want to attract something else. So we could be talking to the younger you who got in all of these broken relationships, or whatever you want to call them. Or we could speak specifically to the one where your partner tried to throw you out of a moving car. There is going to be younger self involved here. Or we can talk to the collective of all of your past relationships and people that you're dating, and bring them all into a room and talk to them, give them a talking to. So what resonates with you?
That might take a long time. There's a long list.
You won't, you can break it down to doing individual releases with each of these people. But for example, when I'm doing like religious trauma with people, and there's often communities, they're not going to go and talk to every single person unless there's some really key people. They usually bring them into their mind's eye, and it's like they're talking to them at a congregation or whatever it looks like to you. And then what we're going to do is just tap back in and just maybe sit a bit with the sensation of the ropiness, the armor that you've got. So out of those, what would you feel? Again, you just trust your mind and where it goes. It's like, yeah, I could talk to all those people, or the ex that tried to throw me out of car, or do I need to speak to my younger self?
I think I need to speak to my 16, 17-year-old self.
Okay. So this is a variation of a release, and I'll just tell you how it goes because, I normally do a one-way conversation with the person, a two-way conversation where you're receiving back reasons and excuses, and then we go into a younger self where it's the more healing and reassurance and the support. However, when you're talking to your younger self, we're still going to go through this, but you're going to do a one-way and a two-way with your younger self where you really go at her. A lot of people hold back because they're like, why would I do that? But we're going to go to the healing and supportive stage after. So I want you to bring your 16, 17-year-old self into your mind, and I'm going to hear the story through the release. And this is where the 3 prompts, which I'll guide you on, is you today walks into the room wherever you are, and you're going to have a go at her. You're going to be critical, judgmental, nasty, tell her all the things that you think about her. And then you're going to tell her how you feel as the older you today as a result of this and what it is you need. So I'm going to prompt you on all these. The first one is walk into that room wherever you are or that space, and you're going to let the younger you have it. What do you want to tell her? What do you think about her, her behavior, etc.?
Do you want me to speak to her directly? Like you speak as you are?
Yep.
Okay. You have no clue how broken you are. And you're trying to play the game and be popular in school and get a good boyfriend and be a good athlete and do all the things that you do on the surface, but inside you are a fucking mess. Mm-hmm. And you're such a mess that you won't even go in the front door of the high school because you're afraid that everybody who's sitting on the radiator in the window in the cafeteria is watching you come in the building. And so you go and creep around the side of the building so no one can watch you come in. But the truth of the matter is no one was fucking paying attention to you anyway. It was all about your fucking ego, and you didn't even know what an ego was. So here you were like trying to hide from everyone, but it turns out that you were so broken inside that it wasn't, you couldn't physically hide. There's no way to physically hide from that. And you found this boyfriend and, tried to explore what a relationship would look like with him. And he went off to college a year before you were going off to college, and you lost your shit. It was like you lost it. You cried for a week. Your mother thought you were dying. She didn't know what was wrong with you. You couldn't express yourself. And it would I feel so bad for you because it must have been horrible to have no idea what a trauma center in your brain felt like to explode when you're 17 years old. Like I have a ton of empathy for you. And I have a lot of anger at all the people who put you in a place where you had no understanding of belonging or safety or that you were enough just as you are. And I'm not even mad at you. You didn't know. You didn't know a thing.
Before we get to that, just let the critical, judgmental side come out because we will circle back and allow you to give her the compassion. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to say to her and just really let her have it? Even though you know right now that she didn't know.
Your mom used to say to you all the time, some pride. And you didn't know how to find the pride. You didn't know how to hold yourself. You didn't know how to stand up for yourself. You didn't know how to support yourself or protect yourself. You thought that if you could just be a good enough girl, people would love you. Just like when you were young and you got abused, you thought if I could just do better on my tests, if I could just do better in my sports, if I could just be more popular and more this, more that, more this, more that, that people would love you. And you didn't know. That's not how it works.
Okay, so just stay in this. I'm just going to mention something that this is so common that you talked about support and protection. You talk about your fascia supporting you, holding yourself, this armor protecting you. And so many people go into the achievement, work hard to seek approval, which is that connection with the unconditional love, which we expect from our parents, but sometimes we feel like it's so conditional that I've got to get the grades, I've got to perform well to be seen, etc. Okay, so there
was no unconditional love in my childhood, none. Still isn't to this day.
Okay, so let's move on to the next prompt in the one way you're still talking to your younger self. you today is telling her how all of this makes you feel. So I feel, you make me feel.
You make me feel so proud of who I've become because the odds were against you in every way. And you had no idea that in a few short years, when you met a man in London and you lived with him in London and it ended in a very ugly way, that you would try to take your life. You had no idea because you did not know how to process these emotions. You didn't even know what they were. You didn't know what a trauma center was. You didn't know that all of it felt like abuse. And all you wanted to do was just be protected, to be held, to have someone be there for you, have your six, have your back, know that someone is going to be there.
I'm just going to stop you here for a minute because this is coming into very reassuring. The one way is about, is there any nasty, critical, judgmental stuff? And so there may not be, but as a result of her being who she was 16, 17 and onwards, how does this make you feel right now because of the position that you're in right now with your body, with your relationships?
Oh boy, now I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
It makes me feel shitty.
So you make me feel?
You make me feel shitty because I'm this age now and I still have never had a full healthy relationship that's also romantic. I have a best friend who's a man and we have a great relationship, but no, I have not. And I'm mad at you for not figuring it out sooner. And I feel now that I've missed out on a lifelong marriage or a lifelong partnership. I lost out on the ability to have children because by the time I got around to pursuing other options, my eggs were too old. I just feel like I missed out on so much in this lifetime and I've made all kinds of excuses. These were my choices, but honestly, you made me live this way.
Okay.
You not being able to get your shit together created this life for me.
Perfect. This is exactly where I want you to go. To tell her how you feel. Is there anything else?
I'm just sad.
Yeah.
Sad, lonely, hopeless sometimes, that now that I've finally done the 25 years of work to heal, that it's too hard to date now. It's so hard. And if I could just have figured it out, if you could have just figured it out younger, we wouldn't be in this position now.
So I want you to sit with that sadness and that sensation and just let it be there. And what does the sensation feel like in your body now?
I feel like there's energy running through my arms at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the good version. Sometimes I have bad energy running through my arms and it feels like my hands are in electric sockets. It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah. Because this is kind of, for me, hearing about the sensations, the symptoms, and what's going on is that this is really actually opening up your heart versus let's just go and soothe the younger self inner child. It's like, let's actually honor the fact that you're not too happy with her as well. And then you can go on and actually really have the intention behind, right, we're going to work on this from this day onwards, even if I am in my 50s. So the last bit to the one-way conversation is, what is it that you need from her? So you're talking to the 16, 17-year-old version of yourself, and she's listening. So what do you need from her? I need you to.
I need you to go away. I just need you to go away. I don't want to think about you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to remember you. I don't want to remember what you put us through. Too many years of missing out on joy and feeling whole because you were always chasing being loved. So what I need from you right now is to just be healed and go away and let me live this life now.
Okay, I'm already getting curious what she's going to say back to you in a minute, but is there any acknowledgement or anything that you need to hear from her? So if she could do things differently, what would she say to you? So again, you're still requesting what you need from her.
She's just telling me she did the best she could. She didn't even know.
Oh, hang on a minute. So just to close off the one way, is there anything else that you need from her?
No.
Okay.
Just
okay.
go away.
Yep. Okay.
Which is a big thing.
Yeah, that's okay. So now if we shift to the two-way where the younger version of you is going to speak back to you. Now, this is where she gets to have, it's still not the soothing or reassurance part. It's all of her reasons and excuses, but you are opening your heart and you're going to hold the space and you're going to listen with presence. The 16, 17-year-old version of you is talking back to you. What are all her reasons and excuses for behaving the way she did back then?
I was just fucking trying to survive. Everywhere I turned, I was either getting beat up or fucked or abused or put enormous pressure on or expected of or denigrated or shot down or like I was just trying to fucking survive. So I'm sorry if I disappointed you, but I was doing the best I fucking could. And then these men would come along or these boys would come along and I was like, oh, salvation. And I didn't know how to pick them and I didn't know, I just had no clue.
Is there any other reasons or excuses that she wants to share? Okay.
She's so like, now, the only one she wants to say is like, you tried growing up with our dad.
Okay, yeah.
You tried.
Okay, so you've listened to this. What sensations going on for you right now?
For me, adult me?
Yeah, just hearing this. What are you feeling? How are you feeling towards her? What sensation have you got in your body?
I just want to like hold her and give her like the biggest hug and say it's not your fault.
Okay, so I'll let you do that. So physically, you can reach out, you can mimic it if you want. And I want the younger version of you to receive this, and I want you to feel what it would feel like to hug her in this way. We've still got to hear back from her what you need to hear. But when you're ready, just let me know and we'll move on to that. What often happens in the two-way conversation is an understanding of why. And in the one way, it's usually a realization of, oh my gosh, this is how I feel and I've not actually expressed this. Okay. So earlier you told her exactly what you needed is I need you to go away. I need you to heal yourself. I don't want to think about you or remember you and what you went through. I've had too many years of missing out on joy and feeling hope because you were always chasing being loved. I need you to be healed and go away and let me live my life right now. That's just a reminder for you. And I want you to hear that she can give you all of that. So I'll guide you if I need to, but she's going to speak to you now and tell you that she can do everything that you need.
I'm sorry I caused you so much pain all these years later. I don't need to be a thorn in your side anymore. I'm sorry. I think just like I was trying to get love from everybody else, I was trying to get love from you too. Because that's all I knew how to do. Is just try. And I'm sorry, but I can go away. Because I feel like you know me now.
I'll just get you to say that last bit again. I'm sorry, I can go away. I feel like you know me now, and let all the emotion come up and feel the sensation.
I'm so sorry. I can go away now. Because I feel like you've finally heard me.
And just feel into your body. How's it feeling at the moment?
A little bit floaty.
Okay. Is there anything else that you need to hear from her?
I feel bad that she feels like I want her to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that part of me that always wants to make everybody happy that just wants to say to her, no, 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 you don't have to go. But I know that she does.
And so this is where sometimes we think we want something in life, and then when we could actually get it, we feel differently. So I'm just going to add this bit in is, do you want her to go away? Now that she can give that to you.
I think if she can be like a peanut in my pocket and not take over my fear responses and my nervousness and my, a guy cancels my first date twice in a row and I turn into my 16-year-old self. I end up crying to my roommate. I don't want to do that anymore. So if she needs to go away so I can not be affected now like I was when I was 16, I don't want to be incapacitated by the challenging world of dating. I want to just have it be like, okay, that didn't work, move on. And if she, right now, she's too present in my life.
Yeah, so I'll get you to talk to her. And this is actually, do you want her as a peanut in your pocket that sometimes you could talk to, or do you want her to go away? So say all that to her. But what do you want? Now that you've gotten what you did want, what do you really want?
I really want her to go away.
Okay.
And I really want her to go away because I don't want to pull her out of the pocket.
Speak to her.
I don't want to have you there that I can count on to let me fall apart because you're there and that's what you do. I'd rather not have you as a crutch. I'd rather learn to emotionally protect myself and take care of myself and let things just flow off me as opposed to having them be caught. The emotions get so caught when I'm with you and I need to be me, adult me. So I'm sorry, but you have to go.
Okay. So this is something else that I'm going to add in right now. We're still getting to the younger self, more supportive conversations. This is what some people might call cord cutting, but it's going to look whatever it looks like to you. So if you allow her to go her separate ways from you, I want you to visualize that. And you can share if you want it could be that she walks away. It could be a parting hug. It could be, right, goodbye, and then this is it. And you're ready to both let go of one another, which a CAFA thing is holding on to relationships for too long. So whatever it looks like to you, if you need to speak any words, go for it. Just visualize parting the ways.
The first thing that came to my visuals are that she was in one of those life rafts, those big yellow round life rafts that are on ships.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just floating away on it. And she's kind of screaming at me desperately, but I don't hear it.
Okay. So as soon as she just drifts away, let all the sensations be there, be in your body, and then you let me know when she's gone and you're ready to move on to the next part.
Okay, she's gone.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to the younger self inner child conversation. And just a reminder for anyone listening that this is quite a variation away from the very basic version. This is now the soothing, the supportive part of the younger self conversation. So you're going to walk into the room like you're that fairy godmother that has all the right things to say because no one else could support you back then in the way that you desired. So what is it that the younger you needed to hear when she was 16 or 17, going through all of the things that she talked about? And then she's going to have an opportunity to ask her lost questions back then and you can answer it. But again, I will guide you. So first of all, you walk into the room. Sometimes words aren't necessary, just your presence, but you were the perfect person who can give her all the support that she didn't get to heal the younger self. What would you say? How would you be?
You are valuable. You are loved. You are lovable. You are unbreakable. And I want you to feel that. You may not feel it yet, but I want you to know it's there.
Okay, so she's sitting there, and a lot of the time, the younger self has these questions like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to find someone? Am I ever going to have a family? Am I ever going to get married? And if you remember that she actually had any of these questions, I want you to have her ask these of you, and you're going to give her honest answers. And I'll help you with these if you need. So what question does she want to ask you? She might have multiple, and we'll work through each of them.
The first one is, why do people leave?
Mm-hmm. And what do you say to her?
Sometimes things just don't go how we always want them to go.
Okay.
But it's not because of you. It's not because you did anything wrong or you were bad or you were a terrible person. Sometimes things just don't work.
Yeah. All right. What else does she want to ask?
Why are people so mean to me?
Yeah. And what do you want to say?
There's two reasons why people can be mean. One is because they're mean. And the other is because you don't yet have the strength to walk away when they're being mean.
Mm-hmm.
Again, neither is your fault.
What other questions does she have?
Will I ever find someone who loves me for me?
Yeah. And what do you have to say? Just be honest. Where you're at right now as well.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to keep trying.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Does she have any other questions?
She wants to know if I'm happy now.
Okay, so have her ask that.
Are you happy now?
Mm-hmm. And what do you say?
So much more so than when you were you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what joy was. I didn't know what happiness was. I was always walking around on eggshells. You were always walking around on eggshells. Worried. that people would leave or people would hate you or mistreat you. I don't have that feeling anymore. The only time it starts to come up is when I start dating again, and if somebody does something that is unkind or unfair, and then I have to work really hard to not let you take me over.
Is there anything else that she wants to say or ask, or anything else you want to share with her?
She wants me to know she hopes I find someone amazing.
Okay, so have her say that.
I hope you find someone amazing
Mm-hmm.
who deserves you.
Okay, so I feel like, is there anything else that you want to say or give to one another before you part ways?
Tugs my heartstrings, but I still know she needs to go.
Mm-hmm. So tell her that, and whatever you need to do or give her.
I love you. Thank you for going through so much pain so I could be this version of me. And you can go rest now.
Mm-hmm. And so you can just leave the room or wherever and however you want to do it. You just let me know when you've done that. Keep your eyes closed though.
I'm good.
Okay. So just tune into your body. What sensation are you feeling, or how are you feeling?
I feel blood flow in my arms.
Okay, cool. And if you just tune in with your arms, what do they look like internally, externally? What's the visualization?
What just came through is they look like bacon.
Yep, good bacon.
Good bacon.
Okay.
Your stuff still have some lumpy fat, but they're like not all ropey.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really interesting just to tap in. Some people don't have a visualization of what things look like internally, but after, as sensation changes in your body, to tune in and go, well, what did it look like? And what does it look like now? And this is how powerful processing your emotions can be. And then the armor can come back, but then it's not the same. It's another layer. It can shift, and then it might look like something other than bacon next time. So sometimes it's really funny things that go on with these. All right. So when you're ready, I'll just get you to open your eyes.
Oh, God.
Okay.
You get me to cry more than anyone else.
I am so good at getting people to cry. I love it.
I am too. I get people to cry all the time.
But thank you for letting me redirect you, because could you see how this is where a lot of people will go. It's like, I shouldn't go to these places of being nasty and critical and judgmental. But in the space of a release, I allow it so that it doesn't seep in throughout your day. But a lot of people will bypass this, and it's like, no, come back. And then you're like, oh God, now I'm going to cry. It's like, that's exactly where you need to go. But then there does come a point where you can have releases and there's no tears. You just know that you've processed it. So it's not always about getting tears for it to be an effective release or feeling sick. After the last one, you felt kind of tired. How do you feel after this one today?
I actually feel pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The only place that I got a little bit confused during the process is that I let her float away on a raft, and then I was having another conversation with her. So it took me a minute to figure out how I could reconcile those different pieces. But once I did, it was like I could talk to the less painful part of her, right? Like she was bringing so much of the pain. So letting the pain float away on the raft allowed me to talk to her like, you're just a little girl. Let me talk to you that way. Like, let me hear you. And so that was really helpful to let go of that painful part. But it was confusing because we don't think about releasing a piece and not the whole.
Yes, exactly. And you know, some people might be listening to this going, oh, hang on, you've just gotten rid of her inner child. Should you do that? But the thing is, there's so many layers to this. And then there might be other releases where you actually bring her back in. So again, there's just so many layers to this as well. But this,
I don't feel like I got rid of her. I feel like I got rid of the part of her that's holding me back from today.
yeah, yeah. And what I find fascinating is over time is how people make sense of this. And again, now we just have to have you live life over the next handful of days, weeks, months, and years, and just see what unfolds. You had some pretty cool stuff unfold last time, and let's see what else. And now you've got this awareness of perhaps these emotions and energies that are held in these areas of your body that you're not happy with, that are fatty and lumpy. And going in with that intention to feel and release these emotions when you're getting needled, every time you feel that twitch or that pulse, that can take you a layer deeper than like, just stick needles in me and do your thing. Like, there's a deeper level of presence and awareness and energy behind why you're going to do this on a physical level and emotional level.
I love that. And in fact, when I go tomorrow and get needles stuck in me again, I will bring this conversation into my mind and my body and just see, especially I think I'll have her do my left arm first, just to see what happens when I start emotionally letting some of that go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would sit there and say, I think you should just get both arms done.
I mean, maybe I will. I mean, it depends how much time she has, but yeah.
Yeah. And there's, as you say, there's different ways, because she could stick the needle, and look, she's her own therapist, but what I would do if there's multiple areas, it's like, right, I'm just going to stick some needles in there and leave them there whilst I really go for it on this place. And that's gone and done its work for about 5 minutes. And then I'll go to town in that area. So everyone's going to work at a different speed, different intention. And yeah. This is so cool. Thank you so much for.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. It's always so interesting to work with you this way. And I will say it's interesting because there's one deep knot in my calf that I can now feel that I couldn't feel before since she needled, because everything has softened, right? I saw my massage therapist. He's like, is this the same leg? I'm like, yeah, it is the same leg. But there's this, I can now feel an actual knot where I couldn't even get close to the knot before because the fascia was so tight we couldn't move anything.
Yeah. And think of your fascia as this like armor that does not need to hold on so tight, that does not need to protect. And if you let this armor down, could you then start to attract what you really want? And on the relationship level, this is where I say, you know, be really clear on your values, your boundaries, which is a big thing for sacral chakra, what it is you desire. So the right of the sacral chakra is to desire and want anything that you want. And I've been reading something recently that says that we wouldn't have the desire unless it was actually possible for us to attain it. And ideal partner, it's like write down all of the qualities of a partner that you desire and share it with
I've written a letter to him.
Yeah, cool. Like all the qualities, eye color, everything, name, job. And even if it seems like this person is an absolute unicorn, it's incredible what can happen. But again, you do it with this different intention and desire. And by processing these emotions, you'll come at it from a different space rather than I'm just doing this exercise because I've been told to and so on. So I'm excited just to find out how the next handful of weeks go for you. We will catch up and I will pop this on the podcast. And for anyone listening, just know that every release is different with every person. And it's generally not just a one and done thing. There's many layers, but I have always just wanted to share with you what a release process can look like. This was not planned in terms of, I didn't know what we were going to release. So thank you for letting me publish this.
My pleasure. It's such important work, and I'm happy to be the guinea pig.
Thanks for listening. Part 3 of these little History Interpreted podcast series. I hope to bring a few more history interpretations to the podcast for you. If you are interested in diving in and having an interpretation, there is a link in the show notes. Availability is just going to be subject to availability, but you can click on the link and you can see if there's any spots. all the information is there. It doesn't include a follow-up call. It is simply you filling out a detailed questionnaire and history, and then I will get back to you with an audio recording of me interpreting your history, which can help start to open the doors to new possibilities and realizations in terms of what it is you can work on. And then, of course, if you're ready to work on it, then we can dive deeper in a group or in a one-to-one setting. So start there, and there are details in the show notes. Thanks for learning with me on the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. If you like what you've heard, I would love if you could rate, review, and share with your friends. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. My handle is The Art of Listening to Your Body. If you're interested in working with me, I offer online courses for the general public and trainings for practitioners, therapists, and coaches. I also open limited one-to-one coaching spaces throughout the year. If you would like to find out more, head to my website, drjinong.com.